to Comic Book Day recordings.
Welcome to the end times.
Yeah. Well, I'm whiny about Free Comic Day if I don't have it. So I spent about a week being real upset. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what I want. This is my house. Nobody can tell me I can't have a holiday if I want to. And so I did it. It wasn't as big, but it was good and it was fun. And people are looking forward to your epilogue.
Cool,
Mark's going to be here next week.
So. How did you manage? I mean, was it mostly curbside pickup or what did you do?
So we do delivery, we do shipping, and then we were able to start curbside.
Okay.
And then we also did a thing where because normally during Free Comic Day, we have a big 20% off sale. Mm-hmm. And so we told people if you buy a gift certificate from the time we open for 60 days after that, we'll add 20% on that. So you can have the sale for 60 days. Because I was also concerned that if I said, as soon as we open, we would be deluged, and then I'd have big. And so
that's good. That's a good plan.
Yeah. And so we did real well with that. And I did a ton of like mystery boxes and grab bags and stuff like that. And we're still gonna, when the industry does it, we'll still do it then. But first Saturday in May is very important to me, and I wasn't willing to give it up.
Okay.
And we did interviews all day and just calls, and it was really good. Some people just drove by and honked. Through our
that's good, just to show their support. That's really nice.
Yeah, it was really good. I was very pleased. So what are you working on? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mark Waid.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Well, let's see. I mean, I took the job of publisher at Humanoids at the beginning of March. So I'm now the publisher of Humanoids, U.S. division. That's the people behind the Incal and Meta Barons and a bunch of other stuff. The timing was maybe not the best. Mm-hmm. I mean, I took the job, and literally on the first day of the job, I sat down with the staff, and I said, in probably the greatest act of hubris since Icarus flew to the sun, I said, I've seen everything. I've been doing this for 35 years. I've worked in all capacities of comics. I've seen every problem there is, so don't worry, we can figure things out. In fact, I look forward to you bringing me a problem I've never seen before. And God took that as a challenge, and now here we are.
Yeah. I also did that and said, I'd just like to have a day in the shop by myself.
Yeah, well, you got your wish. Yeah.
So I was telling Ibram Mustafa.
Yeah, who's the best, yeah.
I'm very excited about the project he won't tell me about. Mm-hmm. But I was telling him that our Humanoid section is directly by my desk.
Okay.
On the floor in the shop, so that I can show everyone Humanoids, because it is one of my favorite brands.
Thank you.
That brand, please don't take offense at this, that brand needs to be hand sold.
I agree. No, that's totally true.
You have to love it.
Exactly. People, I mean, once they get it, they love it. It's just that it's so huge in Europe. I mean, the Incal is one of the greatest, best-selling graphic novels of all time, but it's not as well known here. The Meta Barons is a sensation in France and all over Europe, and it's just not well known here. So, we thank you for your hand selling. We need the promotion, all the promotion we can get, because it's really good stuff.
Well, is it Jodorowsky? Is that how you say it, right?
Yeah.
Nailed it. Okay. We have a whole section of just his, because he's real easy to sell. It's like, have you seen this stuff? Do you like this? Here you go. Right. And in terms of just fantastic art, it's so easy to just show people the richness of it. Yeah. So pardon me fanning out a little bit.
No, all good.
My favorite. And I actually got a little pushback from my staff that was like, you want a section by your desk instead of the stacks? And I was like, ain't nobody else gonna sell this. It's just me. And it should be by where someone looking at it, I can just turn and say, hey, let me tell you about this.
Yep.
Yeah, good job. So keep it going, and we'll do our part.
Yeah. So that's the day job, and then I'm still doing stuff at Marvel when they give the green light again. I'm still working on Doctor Strange.
Nice.
I've got a book project that I can't really talk about yet, but that I'm working on in May, all through this month and all in June. And that's going to take up a lot of time, but it's pretty exciting. Mm-hmm. And we'll be able to announce that, I guess, later this summer, like a book project. Beyond that, there's a few other things, but there's nothing I can really talk about at this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just go into some of the interview questions that my customers have had.
Hit me.
I'm sure you get this one a lot, but what was the first comic book that you read, or the first one that just like hit you?
Hit me? Yeah.
Spoke to you? I think I know the answer to this, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I think by now the whole world knows the answer. I feel bad about answering these questions sometimes because I think to myself, boy, if you've read, more than 3 interviews with me, you've heard this story. But for those who haven't heard, so 1966, I was 3 years old, and I was just entranced with the Batman TV show, apparently. And my dad brought home a copy of Batman number 180. Great Gil Kane, Murphy Anderson cover with a guy in a giant rainstorm and a guy in a skeleton suit wrestling with Batman while he kicks Robin into an open grave. And that was my first comic, and I was just spellbound from that moment on. And I was an only child for the longest time, and I had grandparents and who were very specifically interested in me reading and getting me to, spending a lot of time with me and getting me educated. So I learned to read pretty early on, and that was from comics. And so I have never stopped. Even after I discovered cars and girls in high school, I still, put my money down every week.
So I know you have a love of comics. Was being in the industry also just forever? You don't remember not wanting it? Or
no,
was there?
I had no ambition of being oh, you're breaking up there a little bit. I had no ambition of being a writer. None whatsoever. I knew I wanted to be in comics, maybe. I mean, there was a lot of things I wanted to do, but after I saw the first Superman movie when I was, 14, 15, whatever it was, I knew at that point I wanted the rest of my life to have something to do with Superman. So I'd always loved DC Comics. I liked Marvel Comics, but because I grew up in the Deep South, the Marvels weren't as heavily circulated and they much harder to find. So I just became a DC kid. And I wanted to be an editor. And in fact, I went on staff in 87, I guess it was, for a couple of years as an editor and left. And I learned so much about writing in those 2 years as an editor, working with so many different writers, that when I came off and I needed something to do, the editors who were my friends up there gave me an assignment here, an assignment there, and it just kind of blossomed into a career. And, it's been a really great ride for the last 31 years, and I've been very, very lucky.
So you have all these irons in the fire. Yeah. Can you talk about which parts of the industry you love the best?
Sure. Well, I can talk about the ones I like least. Having owned a store, I am amazed at people who make it work. I am astounded at people who make it work. I think that's great. It was fun for a little while, but then as the ink ran redder and redder, it became a little less fun. Also, it was weird because I owned it, but I couldn't really spend much time in there because I'd be behind the counter and a customer would come up and then want to talk to me about Our Man for, 4 hours or whatever. Talk to me about Metamorpho for the whole afternoon. And they're customers. You have to be, smiling and pleasant. And all I can, I see like clocks, passing by and calendar pages whipping off as I'm thinking, I really got to get back to work. So I wouldn't say I disliked owning a comic book store, but that wasn't as much fun as I had hoped it would be. And I'm sure you can vouch for the fact that there's moments that it's lovely and there's moments when it's not as much fun.
There are very few of those moments for me, just because I bought it when I was 18. Yeah. And so this is all I've ever done. When the clocks are going by, it's just, whatever.
That's the day. Yeah, exactly. The stuff I like best, I think, is the collaboration. I think because what I love about comics is it is a collaborative medium. I'm not just sitting in a room writing a novel and hoping that someday somebody will read it and like it. This is, it's a monthly process, and I kick out, 2 or 3 scripts a month, and editors read them, and I get feedback, and they're given to artists, and the artists have, their take on stuff, which is great because it's not. I always say it's my story until such time as I hand it over to the artist, at which point it's our story. And those collaborations, that feedback, that sort of instant gratification from writing something and seeing it printed so quickly. I think that's the most fun of it for me, the collaboration, the getting on the phone and talking with, whether it's Grant Morrison or Tom Peyer or Brian Augustin or, whoever, just getting on the phone and just knocking around story ideas. That's so much fun.
Mm-hmm. So do you kind of address or look at how things change based on what company you're working with? I don't mean like the story, because obviously the story is different, but your process, does your process change whether you're doing something at Boom or whether you're doing something at Marvel?
No, it really doesn't. I don't really have to change gears that way. I've kind of settled into what my process is, and I wish I could define it, but it's very, it's very fungible. I mean, it's very Quicksilverish.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just thinking hard about what I want the emotion of the story to be about, what I want people to feel, what, what images come to mind, what, visually interesting images come to mind that are cool and might help tell the story. And then just sort of putting that together slowly, just sitting down page one and writing without much of an outline, because it's fun to, I recommend outlining to everybody, because don't do as I do as I say. But it's, for me, the fun of it is just the discovery as I write and realizing on page 4, oh, here's something I hadn't thought about, or here's an idea that I hadn't come across. And a lot of times I'll take some really interesting left turns.
Mm-hmm. So do you read the comments, or do you stay away from those?
I stay away. I've learned to stay away. It was hard. I remember to this day, to the point where I remember what shirt I was wearing. I remember the day that my then girlfriend hooked me up to the internet and said, hey, look at message boards. And that was the end of me. That was the end of me for a long time, because it would just, the communication with fans is great, but even then, the toxicity that comes with anonymous message board posting, would just really throw you off. And about, I don't know, year and a half ago, I finally just gave up on Twitter. I have to keep my account, I gave my account password to the guy who manages my website. And I said, I want you to change the password and do not tell me what it is, no matter what. And just keep posting stuff every day on, about my work or whatever. And let's keep the account alive. But I don't dare go to Twitter. It's such a toxic place. And there's a lot of great fans out there, but that ain't where to find them.
Yeah, I've never had a Twitter. And when people ask me like why I don't follow people or why I don't do Twitter, I'm like, I don't need to be in the locker room. Yeah. I can be out here doing my thing.
The advantage to it for me was less about communicating with the fans as it was just, I'm a news junkie, and finding out things that are happening within instants around the world was really attractive and addictive to me. But I'll live. I'll live.
See, I'm the opposite. If it doesn't happen within comics and within this room, I figure someone will tell me.
I'll tell you. Sure. Yeah.
So some of the other questions that people have asked, what is your favorite breakfast? Aha, you haven't been asked that one, right?
I have not been asked that one.
Yeah.
My favorite breakfast, which I do not partake in very often because I would look like a Macy's Thanksgiving balloon if I did, is there's a Krispy Kreme donuts about 8 blocks up the road. And that is hands down my favorite Saturday morning breakfast, especially any kind of breakfast. The lemon-filled Krispy Kreme donuts, that's the one.
Wow. Okay.
But bad to do every day. So, so it becomes more, here's eggs and oatmeal again, because it's good for me. That's kind of what it ends up being.
So one of the things that I personally like about your writing, I hope I'm not stepping on my own tongue here, but oftentimes when I read your stuff, it feels a lot more uplifting.
Thank you.
Than some of your contemporaries.
Thank you.
And books that have been dark and gritty kind of feel like with hope.
Yeah.
Is that on purpose?
Oh, absolutely. I don't necessarily sit down to do it. It's just in my makeup. It is that, and again, look, there are a lot of dark, grim, gritty comics out there that are well written and well done, and you can, you look so weird with a green screen when you drink the bottle because it only half the bottle shows up. No, over to the side. Yeah, it just vanishes.
Sorry.
It's like a magic trick. There's a lot of I mean, I would never decry dark, grim, gritty comics if they're well written. They're well written, but I just personally and professionally just have no use for cynicism. I really don't. I think that the world is a trouble enough place as it is. I think the world is, full of bad news. I think there's just so much going on that milks our enthusiasm for getting up out of bed in the morning, that I believe in hope. I believe in optimism. I believe in finding optimism in things. And I don't write cynical stories. I shy away from that. It doesn't mean that good always has to triumph in a corny sort of 1950s way, but I think that's an accurate reading of my work. Yeah.
One of my favorite, I don't know if you'd call it a scene, but one of my favorite things in all of comics to this day is in the Absolute Kingdom Come, when you open it up, and it was right after Christopher Reeves. Yep. And it said the dedication was because he made us believe man can fly.
Yes, man can fly. Yep.
And that's one of my very favorite moments.
That was a transcendent moment for me to see Christopher Reeve on the screen for the first time and know that, that's Superman to me all over.
And that was just that's kind of one of those things that I would guess as creatives and things like that, you want to stick with people, and that has stuck with me for what, 25 years?
Something like that. Yeah. Close to it. Yeah.
So, and I find stuff like that just uplifting and good. I mean, I like dark comics. Don't get me wrong. I loved all the Daredevil leading up to your run. Yeah. But your run was like just this breath of fresh air, and I was just like, yeah, Daredevil's being fun and flipping around, and he steals a kiss from the girl and is just laughing and joking, and off he goes.
I mean, it's tricky. Thank you. I mean, the downside to it is that it apparently is very easy for me to get typecast as old school or Silver Age guy or whatever, and I rankle at that because I don't think that the stories fit that at all. It's just because you're taking something and taking a different view of it, doesn't mean you're quote unquote old school. I mean, when I did Flash back in the day, we were going against the grain of everything. Everything was dark and grim and gritty and Watchmen influenced. And my editor, Brian Augusta, and I just said, we can't do that. And so with Flash, we deliberately we were the only DC book that was going against the grain. And at first, DC's reaction was, what is this? And then we started to pick up speed, no pun intended. And I was pleased to see that sort of helped open the doors for a greater variety of storytelling. Not necessarily all good, all straight up happy superhero stuff, but just a variety of storytelling.
So, and pardon me, I should know the answer to this. Have you done a lot of kids work or young adult work? It doesn't.
Not a whole lot. I haven't done a lot of adult work, and I haven't done like hide it under the covers.
No. I said young adult.
Young adult. No, actually, no, not. I mean, you could point to a big part of my work and just go, that it kind of is young adult, but not specifically. I've been asked to, and I've entertained that notion, but the idea of writing, if you're not doing it in comic book form, if you're doing it like as a young adult novel or something, I mean, the idea of trying to figure out how to learn to write a novel at my age is not something that interests me anymore. I just don't have the patience for it. I don't have the temperament for it. I like being able to write visually. But I have written a few kids stuff over the years, and I wrote this thing for Ahoy Comics, I guess, late last year. They did a book called Steel Cage, where they had several people do, short stories. And I wrote something with a woman named Lana Souvani, who is a French artist who's just stunning work. And we wrote something called Noah's Ark. And it's specifically for kids. And it should be a Nickelodeon show. And that we'll do something more with as the world starts to become normal again.
Mm-hmm. So how does all of this affect kind of, well, for Humanoids, for instance, how does everything that's going on, how is that going to affect when we actually get stuff? Or is that something you can't talk about?
I can talk about it. I mean, with Humanoids specifically, it was the decision, we made the decision, we were one of the first to announce that we were just going to move our entire slate one quarter, just punt it forward one quarter, because frankly, there wasn't much coming out in the next few months anyway. And I know, from having owned a comic book store, having a bunch of books shipped to you that you can't sell, but you've got to pay for, that is useless. It's useless to you. So rather than just keep shipping you stuff and hoping that your store will be open someday, the idea was, okay, we've got enough, we've got enough behind us where we can take the hit and we can not furlough anybody and not tell any creators to put their pencils down, which is great. And so we can just work from home and push our slate forward a few months. And that's really all we can do that I know of. If any retailers have any ideas about what else we can do to help, I mean, by all means, get in touch with us.
Well, I got the feeling very early on that people were really appreciative that you were like, this is just what we're going to do. We're going to do this thing. We'll deal with it. Nobody's going to get hurt on our end. And we respect you guys. And we want to put our product out when you can sell it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the impression I got from a lot of
Thank you. Good.
I'm
Good.
obviously, well, maybe not obviously. I'm on a lot of pages. And I just sit back and lurk about what people have to say.
Yeah.
So for the most part, I don't think anyone complained. There was a lot of like, yay, Humanoids.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about? Because we got maybe 5 minutes before you have to run away. So.
That's a good question. Not so much. I mean, again, I do hope everybody's staying safe and sane, and it is so weird out there. Personally, my lifestyle has changed about 5% because I'm a board certified hermit anyway. The only real difference is instead of every couple of nights, my girlfriend and I sitting in front of the TV going, what do you want to watch? It's now every night we sit in front of the TV and go, what do you want to watch? But beyond that, no. And other than that, the only thing I really feel compelled to say, and you've heard it over and over again, but it still bears repeating, frontline workers, bus drivers, grocery store workers, healthcare professionals, you guys are astounding. You guys are amazing, and it's a crime that it took something like this to demonstrate to the world how underpaid you are and how essential you are. That what frustrates me about the situation, several things, but one of the things that frustrates me about the situation is that this proves that these are problems we could have fixed all along. In terms of income and disparity, in terms of rewarding the people who keep us safe, the teachers, the teachers and the stuff they've had to go through. We've, as a government, as a society, we've clearly got the means to do it because now we're doing it. It shouldn't have taken us to get to this point to do it. But I hope that when all the dust settles, I pray that it is not quickly forgotten that those are the people who kept everything spinning, kept the world spinning the entire time at their own risk, and we owe them enormously.
I was actually going to tell you I got those packages sent out, and they were all very, very appreciative because I put a little note in there that said from Mark Waid.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. You didn't have to tell them, but that's okay. I mean, that's fine.
I think it was even more meaningful that it was from you.
It was just a way of giving back. I mean, I appreciate your helping me figure out how to do that. We did that with a couple of stores here in the Los Angeles area. I just, I don't have deep pockets to, buy out entire stores worth of pull boxes, but whatever I can do to help, and especially show my concern and my respect for those who have been so great in this situation. Happy to do it.
Well, two of them are giant Mark Waid fans.
Thank you. That's cool. Tell them I said hello.
They've bought everything from like 20 years, 30 years.
Awesome.
Have been going.
Very cool.
Like every DC book and every Marvel book, both these gentlemen buy every month.
Well, tell them I said hello.
I will let them know that I told you that thank you and that you were pleased that they were happy.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have much more time for a lot more. So I just want to end by saying,
I'm afraid to get a heart out. Yeah. So I think that's all I've got. You've got any last questions? Any last thoughts?
Well, what's your hope for the future with the industry?
With the industry, oh my God. First off, that it survives, but it will. Wow. I mean, the hope for the real hope for the industry is just that we get back to where we were. Mm-hmm. The supplementary hope, if we can make this work, if the market will sustain us, is I think this has proven to us that we don't need 800 comic books a week in stores, that we don't, between Marvel and DC publishing like 160 comic books a month, I don't think that we need that many. And hopefully this, the way that both companies, or the way that Marvel particularly is doing the slow rollout and seeing what comes of that, hopefully they'll learn from that, or they'll find out from that, hopefully, that we don't, maybe volume is not everything.
We don't need to throw mud at the wall.
Yeah, it's a lot of comics, as you know.
Yes, I do. Well, thank you for being a part of our Free Comic Day. Thank you for what you do for the industry and bringing light and love into the world. So I hope you have a wonderful day. And
my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now go wash your hands.